Hey guys, welcome to Living in My Now. And I have my crunchy brother. We have a weird dynamic. I cannot be nice. I cannot be nice. I'm sorry. But yeah, we're here. He is almost 5 years older than me. And the point of this video today is not only for you to meet my crunchy brother, but also for us to talk about like growing up. He typically snaps back at me. But anyway, we're talking about growing up with not a lot because I remember like growing up nowadays it's kind of different because people kind of feel like we have to give our kids all these activities and give them all this stuff, and we didn't grow up with very much at all.
Well, the I'm not gonna say we didn't grow up with very much. What the difference is, if if you are poor and other people around you are poor, you do not notice how poor you are until you get around people with money and who have things that come directly from the store instead of like going picking for things that people may have thrown out through the alley.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Okay, so growing up, I forgot about that. So growing up, and this is cool. Please don't think we were deprived because we were not. My mom had a really good job, and we stayed like in this. Oh, we're still in the same house, like this duplex where like all of us stayed upstairs. My mom, my dad, and the three of us, and then like my grandparents had the first level to themselves. So I mean, yeah, we people would throw things out. We would get them. We got like new toys, but see, we got used to going to the secondhand store, so it didn't bother us. But yeah, I remember my friend Shanika that stayed two doors down, and they were throwing stuff out because they had to move really quick. And she's like, "Stop getting my toys and stuff out the." That was the best.
There's like the for a little bit of context, like in I'm not gonna say richer neighborhoods. I'm gonna say in whiter neighborhoods, what happens is what typically happens in suburban neighborhoods is that people usually get, it's like, oh, it's spring. I'm kind of tired of the look of my house. I know, we're gonna redecorate. So we're gonna get rid of this couch and we're gonna put up new wallpaper and we're gonna paint and we're gonna get a whole new motif. And what that means is they would throw out whole couches, TVs, the whole 9 yards. Now this is in a suburban neighborhood. In the hood, when people threw out stuff, it was like it had already seen as its maximum use.
But not all the time, but a lot of times.
Not all the time, but a lot of times. So what would normally happen is our grandfather was kind of a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. So you come home with like a pair of shoes that might be your size that somebody got rid of because they outgrew them. And he would straight up get some rubber cement, put the sole of the shoe back together or whatnot, hook all the stuff up. Like you bring home toys and it's like, oh, but the gun on this is broken. It's like, all right, get some super glue, tape that on there, or like you get some medical tape on like a GI Joe with the leg that's been snapped off, and it's like, oh, now he's got battle damage because you got the little bandage on here, and that was kind of our deal. We grew up going to get clothes from certain stores, but we played rough. And we played like outside. Our version of playing, like, we grew up with a Nintendo, but when we played, like, we used our imagination. We got out there and played in the literal dirt. So if our parents bought us brand new Nikes and brand new outfits, like, to go out and play in, they would be broke. So instead, we got clothes secondhand that we would screw around and play in, and we got school clothes when it was time to go shopping for real. So most of the stuff we got was from this thrift store like a couple of blocks from our house called DAV.
Yes, I couldn't think of the name. Yes, DAV
and
was the best.
DAV had a basement, and the basement was where the toys were. Upstairs was all the clothes, like the women's section was on the left, the men's section was on the right.
That one little section
the
had like
boys
all
section
the
was back there. Then they had like in the back where it was bookshelves and the old electronics and dishes and stuff. But downstairs, that was like our parents could get rid of us for a solid 35 to 45 minutes by sending us downstairs. So we would play on all the toys.
Yes. I remember going down those stairs and it was like, the new Care Bear. And I have retro Care Bears that I'm giving to his daughter. But yes, like I got all my Care Bears. It was the best. And we just didn't notice that it was secondhand because we were happy kids. I mean,
like we were happy kids. And like I said, other kids were also equally as economically challenged as we were. So when you grow up around other kids that are in the same circumstances, you don't feel poor, you don't feel disenfranchised, you don't feel any of that stuff until other people with money start looking down on you or talking to you crazy. Like, we have a mutual relative who will remain nameless, who is more than happy to talk about all of the things that their other relatives have bought them that were super brand name this and super expensive that and blah, blah, blah. And for us, like, I didn't get my first pair of legit brand name shoes till I was like 12 that came out of a store. Every other pair of shoes I got, because I ran through shoes real bad.
That's real crunchy.
East Sides, Pro Wings.
Yeah, Pro Wings.
Like, all that was what I got.
Get the video a like if you remember Pro Wings. And Payless, since it's not
right.
Here
if you
anymore.
had shoes with Velcro because your shoestrings looked like somebody had been chewing on them after a couple of weeks, you already know what it is. So for us, it was a way of life, not out of necessarily necessity. Like, if we had just acted right and not effed our clothes up. Or
I told
like
him not to curse on my videos.
Right, like, oh, it's so
it's
hard
for him.
Because like I am.
Yeah, he's doing good.
See, I'm behaving. I'm gonna say all the F words on the way home. So.
Oh no.
So for us, like, that was the common thing. Was mainly we would, like, cherry pick other people's, like, stuff as they threw stuff out. A lot of people around here would get evicted or have to move, or...
We realized that as we got older. We didn't know. We were just like, oh, it's stuff.
It was like, holy crap, like, somebody got rid of a whole box full of toys. Like, oh, man, a whole bunch of shoes. Like, you know, and it was just kind of cool for us. And, you know, nobody... The way to tell that this was a big deal, that everyone was kind of going through it, nobody ever called us out on it. Like, we didn't get to school and, like, were wearing something somebody threw out and they were like, hey, man,
that's my shirt.
Right.
It was like...
And it didn't hurt that everybody in the 80s and 90s wore, like, the exact same thing. There were a bunch of people with, like, the Black Simpsons t-shirts, where all of them were African American, where everybody had a big Minnie Mouse or Tweety Bird shirt. Everybody had Rufus and Tyrone, which was the black version of Beavis and Butthead.
Oh no, I remember.
People were walking around where we got officially banned from wearing them at school with the "Don't Ask Me for SH" shirt.
The bad.
Yeah. Don't ask me for S word shirts. Yeah.
You remember Crisscross? Okay. If you remember this, you were like, you literally grew up in the 90s with us, 80s, 90s. The OPP jackets, those were really cool. And then also the Bugs Bunny and I think it was Daffy Duck, and they have the backwards clothes like Crisscross. I remember that. But one thing I will say, like, that I did notice, and I don't know if you noticed that with your friends too, like, the parents who really did put forth a lot of their money, and I'm not saying all of them, let me rephrase that. Some of the parents, now that I look back at it, that did put forth, like, a lot of money for their kids to, like, look nice and stuff. Some of those kids had really nasty attitudes. And then also, like, I noticed, like, remember that one, I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to embarrass her. Remember the girl that lived up on 118th in Michigan that mom couldn't get in the house and come get me?
You mean... No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
I'm not going to say her name. But, like, remember, she used to have, like, all the name brand clothes. Like, when I went to her house, like, they didn't have a way to wash clothes. Like, their house was really run down. And it's like the parents put more effort into making their kids look nice than worrying about them having a quality childhood. I'm not saying everybody.
I don't think...
But, like, some people...
I don't think exactly that was I think the problem with when you don't have stuff and you want to be keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, you try really hard to look like you're not struggling or to look like you're not going through financial hardship. So a lot of people, if all the other kids had to have Jabos, or all the other kids had Guess jeans, or all the other kids were wearing K-Swiss, or the Adidas with the black and white Adidas, or all this, you basically had to try to keep up fashion wise so those kids didn't get ridiculed, so those kids didn't get made fun of, so those kids didn't get cornered or talked about. And I should know because I was that kid. And consistently, that was a thing. With boys, it was a lot different. With girls, they could wear just about anything. It didn't necessarily have to be brand name. It was more fashion. But with boys, it was like you had to have you had to have a pair of Jordans. You had to have this particular pair of jeans. You had to have this particular shirt. With girls, they could throw something together, distress some jeans, and they were good. But boys, it was more we had to specifically, we weren't putting rips in our pants. You know what I'm saying? We weren't wearing,
that wasn't a thing.
Scrunchies with all slap bracelets and all that. It was a different sense of style for us. So all of our stuff had to be specific brand name. And as somebody who was not out keeping up with the Joneses, I begged my mom, oh, the black and red Jordans are coming out. Can I please get it? And she's like,
she wouldn't buy them
sure.
now.
How much are they? And I'm like, I don't know, $100. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? $100?
Don't go crazy for water.
I'll tell you what, if you don't want any new clothes for the year, and you keep up with all of your chores and bring home straight A's,
which you did
maybe. Now, this was maybe. And I'm like, but everybody's wearing them now. And that didn't matter, so she knew I wasn't going to keep up with it. So it was like, or you can get these Reeboks. And I'm like, I'll take the Reeboks.
And see, I was the kid that was like, I don't care. It's cute. And I'm still like that. It's cute. It fits. I'm good. I've always been like that. And I would say, sometimes girls made fun of me, but it was only because they were just being jerks. It wasn't because of what I wore, because I wore cute clothes.
Yeah, a lot of fashion trends kind of came and went, where, people were in Jodeci boots. Everybody wanted a terry cloth jacket.
Combat boots.
Everybody wanted a terry cloth jacket with some type of Simpsons print on it or a Ninja Turtles print on it.
Oh, yeah. We got those because they were we could find them cheaper.
Yeah.
But all that to say, your kids do not have to grow up with the latest, the greatest. Just do your best and give them a happy home.
At this point, we kind of are growing up. Well, not are growing up, but as we are grown and our kids are getting older, we're in kind of a different space with things like YouTube, with things like Reddit and whatever else, where people are discovering things we found out as kids, and it's oh, we can do a life hack on this, that, or the other. Our version of a life hack, all these people using hot glue for everything, all these people making oh, you can do your own tie-dye sweater. We did all that stuff for fun.
Right.
And now, kids are doing it oh, I'm going to try,
this is new. No, we were actually doing that.
For real, taking bags of, quarter chips and putting them in the oven so they shrink.
Oh, yeah, we were doing that. Yep.
Yeah, all making, little keychains and whatnot out of them. These were the types of things we did for fun. So if you encourage that rather than just trying to shove your kids into something else that's going to cost you money, I'm not saying be cheap with your kids, but your kids will not necessarily respect a dollar better, but they will have more of a sense of creating their own style, being creative, having more hands-on experience with doing stuff, not having to default to someone else repairing things. All the electronics I've had in my life, I've had to try to repair myself. I know somebody else was like, oh, my button isn't working. I'm going to have to take this to the Genius Bar because their phone wasn't functioning properly. I'm like, let me see. And they're like, oh my
That's what
God,
we
how
did
did
that.
you fix that? I'm like, because I've had to do this my whole life. Like, if you get a VCR or had a VCR at any point,
that stuff. It was so easy to
VCRs
fix
will
stuff.
eat your tape. And VCRs were expensive, which means if you didn't want to have to get a whole new VCR, you better learn how to be a VCR repairman yourself. You get some screwdrivers, you open it up.
Or your tape.
Worst case scenario, it's already broken. What are you going to do? Make it more broken? So just, in the words of Miss Frizzle, get messy, make mistakes, and you just kind of go from there. Most of the fun we had was just doing dumb stuff. We would honestly, and we were shopping at the thrift store as kids, so we would get outfits, and we would have twin day where
I forgot
the
about
stuff
that.
we would wear would be the exact same outfits.
And it was
And
fun.
granted, I'm 5 years older than her. We don't look anything alike.
We don't.
Well,
your eyes are more like this than mine. But anyway.
So for us, like little goofy stuff like that, doing twin day, doing experiments in the kitchen where we would end up mixing together like random spices and whatnot, and we would never eat it.
Oh yeah, I remember that we picked the weeds out the garden.
Yeah,
and,
we would just do like
About
little
the
goofy
yard.
stuff like that. And now, for some hipster, picking wild greens, and
we were the OGs of that. Just note that.
Just saying, been there, done it. So just try to have fun with what you've got.
Exactly.
And if you get something, get the components that you need to make something original rather than getting something that's put together. Right now, most of the stuff that I do for fun is cosplaying. I create
that stuff is
costumes and props from scratch, especially 80s, 90s nostalgia stuff. I just made a Darkwing Duck costume last year with a 3D printed bill, light up eyes, the whole 9 yards. And I wouldn't have had that creativity if I didn't do all that stuff as a kid and just get to experiment with what you could do with some cardboard and some duct tape or some glue, or trying to retrieve and fix up things that used to belong to somebody else.
But I'm happy you guys tuned into the next video. We're going to talk about stupid stuff we used to do as kids because it's getting long and I want to keep it 10 minutes. But that's okay because we gave you a lot of good things. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Put some of your childhood memories down in the bottom in the comment box so we can kind of talk about different things. So we grew up in Chicago. I don't know if we mentioned that. We grew up in Chicago, in Roseland, in the hundreds. Yes, it wasn't as bad as most areas. It's still the hood. But anyway, if you want to see his costumes, sit there and talk about your Instagram tag. What is it?
Oh, I have no idea.
I will put it at the bottom in the description. I will see you guys later. Bye.